they'd all be out of a job.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I don't know how that's gonna go though. I have mixed feelings about it.
It's impossible to just clean house. I mean, it's,
You can maintain some institutional knowledge.
yeah.
A lot of bad habits around.
Yeah.
I don't know how the electorate's gonna vote though. I think it's gonna be really interesting. Trimber hasn't been the shining star numbers.
Yeah, I think he's done a good job. I think he's done a reasonably good job. Yeah.
Inspiration and forward thinker. Probably not. We need that probably.
Yeah.
Diana's on the take. Whatever your insurance wants.
Yeah. Well,
My biggest fear is open shit.
yep. Well, and she lasts someplace about 18 months. Ups from, yeah.
My biggest, Mark Dabrowski had done reinsurance. He's been called.
What's that? Yeah.
Why would I donate her every time she's had a job? I'm sure I don't because she hires out of town.
Yeah. Right.
She's shooting on her whole profession with that school of hiring.
Oh,
I would never bitch to anybody. Taylor Murphy got it.
yeah.
Hoffmar's got it. You'd never hear me say a word. But when a Pittsburgh firm gets
Yeah.
progress locally,
Yeah.
I'm so calling those people.
Well, I mean, Hunter Hodges has done schools forever.
Yeah.
I get that. But recent history, we have as much history, much experience in schools as they do. You know? We do it all in Pittsburgh, in the
Yeah.
Pittsburgh market.
But even what they built over there, well, I'm qualified to do that. What's
Yeah,
this mediocre kind of solution for addition and
Yeah,
interior finishes.
yeah,
Like,
right.
keep the money here.
Well,
Well,
I
that
don't
was my
know.
response to, will you donate $500 to this campaign? No.
Yeah.
What? I can't believe you're asking me.
Right.
It was an individual ask too. It wasn't.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
All right. You ready?
Why not?
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for waiting. We had a busy meeting this morning, special meeting. I apologize for being a little late in getting started. I'll call today's meeting of the Erie Planning Commission to order for Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. Do the roll call first. I am here as chair, Richard Spiker. Vice chair, Mr. Russ.
Present.
Ms. Mazanowski.
Present.
Mr. Wazorek.
Present.
Also note that the director, Jackie Spry, is here, as well as our secretary, Cooper Moore. First item, approval of the April 15th, 2025 meeting minutes. Would someone care to make a motion?
Motion approved.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any public comment or correspondence?
I have one correspondence,
Okay.
unless there's someone online. I don't think so. No, there's no, you
No
can't
one-
take public comment online. The mayor did appoint a new planning commissioner. That person hopefully will start the following month. That person has not been notified yet, so I don't want to say that they're accepting the role, but I do know that the mayor has appointed a new commissioner. So you will be fully staffed.
That's good news. Thank you. Old business, saldo amendment updates.
So the saldo, unfortunately, I had to delay the meeting with Troy from Michael Baker till, I think, Thursday or Friday of this week. But Troy has submitted to us a first draft of the saldo revisions, and I'm happy to send those out to you. I haven't had a moment to look at them, but I will do that by the time we meet with them, and I can send those to the commissioners if you wish to see the first draft.
Would appreciate that, yes.
Sure. I think I was waiting until we had a chance to go through the amendments together, and then I was going to send them out to the commissioners. But as noted in the proposal, the turnaround for the amendments is 45 days. So we're hoping by the middle of June, we should have that wrapped up and ready to go through and adopt
Okay,
at Planning
thank you.
Commission.
New business. No business, nothing for subdivision and land development, nothing in rezoning. Blighted property designation.
Just skip right to me on the agenda.
Yeah.
All right. Woo. There we go. That's loud. All right. So on the agenda today is two properties. And so both of these properties are essentially at the corner of East 10th Street and Ash. The authority owns the property at 608 East 10th Street, and the land bank owns the property at 915 Ash Street. 917 Ash has a very long history of blight, city interventions, working with the property owner. The city actually did emergency demolition on that after a court order last year. It's now a vacant lot. We've tried to work with the property owner to take ownership of that property. She has continuously dodged us, scheduled meetings, and just continued to push that off. So I seek the designation of blight on 917 Ash so that then we can go through with condemnation and declaration of taking and take possession of that property. And then 606 East 10th Street is another property that's been blighted for some time. The property owner is currently doing some alterations to the property without permits and revising some things and changing some things up. It's a commercial storefront. It's come and gone as far as its occupancy and being open and what its service to the community has been, but in its current condition, it's vacant and would serve a better purpose for the authority in the city of Erie as part of the East Bayfront Greenway Trail project, which would, with the acquisition of these two properties, would essentially give us 4 parcels right there at the corner of 10th and Ash to be kind of the center starting point of the East Bayfront Greenway Trail, and then ultimately connect with the initial phase 1, which is getting under contract here up on East 6th Street. So those 2 properties I'm asking the Planning Commission to designate as blighted today.
Motion to designate these properties?
I have a question first.
Yes?
Just playing devil's advocate. You said the owner was making alterations without permits. Have we tried to talk with him to find out could we get him permits to make it a functional property, or is he just?
We have attempted to contact that property owner for almost 2 years currently to open a line of communication and see if there's something we could do to work together on that property, and we have had no communication with them since. And so it comes and goes. Every once in a while we see somebody at the property working, we try to engage them, they don't know anything, they're just working for somebody, they don't know who they're working for. And so we've come to a point where we're going to post property pre-condemnation, and whether that spurs some conversation or not, this is really just kind of the Planning Commission's designation is one of about 4 steps in the process of getting declaration at taking. So we could essentially come to an agreement and have conversation between now and, condemnation, but, I think we need to keep moving this down as fast as we can and give the authority the authorization and the ability to take the property if necessary.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Second. Motion and second. Any further discussion? Then all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That'd be great, yeah. I mean, no, you wait till the end of the meeting. I'm not going to run to the courthouse. So.
No, but while I have,
Yeah, if you could get it signed, and then I can just have it in the file and start the process.
Okay.
That'd be great. Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, everyone.
You bet. Next item, action requested on the Erie Safety Action Plan.
yeah, thank you. We have Jeff Reigner from Kittleson and Associates online. Hi, Jeff. Thanks for joining us. Jeff
Thanks
is
for having
going.
me.
Oh, sorry. Jeff is going to give you not the full presentation, because we did have a special meeting where we reviewed the safety action plan, but a bit of an abbreviated just recap of the safety action plan, primarily focused on the recommendations and some also next steps for the implementation grant that we'll be applying for on June 26th. That's due June 26th. So, Jeff, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, members of the commission. I appreciate the opportunity to present to you today. We have a brief summary of the information that we discussed as part of a commission work session a few weeks ago, just as a reminder of the elements of the safety action plan and what is proposed in terms of implementation as a result of the plan. I'll give an overview of the planning process, a summary of recommendations that are being offered, and really focus today's conversation on the steps that will be taken to implement the safety action plan. So as a reminder, there's a significant transportation safety problem in the city of Erie. 200 people over a 5-year period either were killed or had significant injuries in traffic crashes in the city. A really significant issue that affects a lot of people and families in the city. As a result, the city applied for and received a $200,000 grant from the United States Department of Transportation for the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, SS4A. And that grant is being used to develop the safety action plan that you have in final draft form at this point. We undertook a significant engagement process as part of developing the plan. Any safety action plan involves both data analysis and hearing from the public to get information about their transportation safety concerns and ways that we might be able to address them. Only by having a data-driven and public-driven plan can we have successful implementation in the city. So we've spent about a year understanding existing crash conditions, meeting with the public to discuss those issues, developing draft recommendations, and then again, meeting with the public to discuss those and get feedback before coming up with the final draft plan. At the centerpiece of this plan is the concept called Vision Zero. This is an aspirational but important goal to potentially eliminate traffic fatalities in the city of Erie. It's a tall order, but based on conversations with our safety working group and with city leadership, the goal is to attempt to reach Vision Zero within 10 years by 2035, which requires a real collaborative effort among city departments and other agencies to ensure that the city streets are being addressed and that better education is being provided to all travelers on the city streets. Our process was guided by what we've called a safety working group, which is comprised of a number of city agencies as well as members of the community and members of civic organizations and other public agencies that really have a stake in safety on city streets. This group met 4 times during development of the plan, really had an opportunity to discuss concerns, to understand each other's perspectives, and really get behind development of the plan, which is especially useful because this group or some subset of it will be tasked with monitoring the implementation of the plan once it's complete. We also met generally with the public, and this was a very thorough and inclusive process. It was done in 2 phases. The first of these was held in the late summer, early fall of last year, was really to introduce the plan, share traffic safety data, and get information on people's traffic safety experiences, to ask them questions about the areas that they're concerned about. We did hold a traditional public workshop in September, but we also used a wide variety of techniques to be able to reach people who typically are not heard from as much and often don't attend public meetings. So we included online tools such as a survey and a story map, but city planning staff also spent a lot of time in the community, taking the survey to community meetings, reaching out to groups that have not been heard from as much in the process typically, to really get a cross-section of Erie citizens providing input on the process. Once we developed draft recommendations over the winter, the second phase of engagement happened in late January, early February. We shared proposed recommendations and got public input on those recommendations using many of the same types of tools. So an online story map, a public workshop, and then a toolkit of materials that city staff could take to various places like schools, community centers, and what have you, again, to try to reach people where they are in Erie. As a result of that process, we developed a series of recommendations. I'm happy to answer specific questions about these, but I'm providing a very brief overview for your use today. There are 3 different categories of those recommendations. One of them is specific locations, places where there have been a lot of crashes in the past or key severe crashes where improvements are appropriate. The second is so-called systemic safety recommendations, which is identifying the types of facilities that tend to have a number of crashes. By implementing countermeasures at those locations, we could potentially address crash issues before they occur. And then third is non-infrastructure, things that are not actually built on the street, things like education, enforcement, and changes to city policies and programs. In that first category, spot-specific recommendations, I'll show you an overall map. There are specific high-priority corridors. We found that about over 30%, I believe it's between 30 and 40% of fatalities occurred in these 6 corridors, the ones that are shown in dark blue on your map. They include portions of East 6th Street and East Lake Road, West 8th Street, a large stretch of 12th Street, 18th Street, 26th Street extending east onto Broad Street of Buffalo Road, and then 2 north-south corridors, a portion of State Street and a portion of Parade Street. We also found that there were a number of intersections that had high incidence of either crashes or very severe crashes. Those are shown in the gold dots. And then finally, we benefited from a study that PennDOT did in 2023, looking at the safety of vulnerable road users, which is a term for people who are walking and biking and are traveling without the benefit of a motor vehicle around them. And we found some locations that either overlap with or complement the high injury network that's shown in blue. These areas in pink include 2 pieces of 26th Street, a portion of East 12th Street, and a portion of State Street between Perry Square and the Bayfront. I'll also note that the recommendations that are provided for the section of 12th Street that was studied as part of 12th Street Reimagined, our recommendations are generally consistent with what's included in that plan. Then speaking of the second category, systemic safety improvements, we found that there are some specific types of crashes and locations that we can address. In particular, angle crashes and pedestrian crashes are most commonly occurring at 4-leg signalized intersections. Of course, there are a lot of those in the city, so the plan includes a prioritized list based on the types of factors that tend to be present. They tend to be most likely when there are no crosswalks or faded crosswalks. They tend to occur in more commercial areas. And they occur, interestingly, not immediately adjacent to schools, but in areas that are not too far from schools, indicating potentially that some of the improvements that have been taken place around schools as part of the Safe Routes to School program could potentially be expanded. We also saw that run-off the road crashes, interestingly, were a concern. That's very common in more rural areas, and we were a bit surprised to see that it takes place in Erie. But in the city context, it tends to be people running into parked cars, trees, telephone poles, what have you. And we've recommended some suggestions for those types of crashes as well. And then finally, the third category is non-infrastructure improvements. And some recommendations that we include in the plan include education, which is both better education for drivers, safety education within schools to complement the Safe Walking Routes program, safety media campaigns, and what have you. Another that we looked at and provide some general recommendations for is opportunities for better enforcement, working with the police department to better understand how staffing might be able to be provided to ensure that enforcement happens and behavior is stopped before it results in a crash. We also made some suggestions in terms of policies and programs, including finalizing the city's complete streets policy, implementing a neighborhood traffic calming program, and expanding the successful Walking Routes to School program. Critically today, I would like to talk about implementing the plan. At the end of the plan are 2 pages that really, I believe, are the heart and soul of the plan. And those are specific recommendations on how they can be implemented. They include planning level cost estimates, the types of funding sources that may be available, agencies that need to be involved, either as the lead implementer or collaborators, suggested priority level, and phasing timeline. And that includes both the infrastructure recommendations that are shown on this slide, as well as the non-infrastructure recommendations or policy changes that could potentially be made. As Jackie mentioned at the beginning, we have a unique opportunity right now. So the plan will be presented to City Council for adoption at its June 4th meeting, and that timeframe is very important. The Safe Streets and Roads for All program that I mentioned earlier that funded this plan also provides opportunities for implementation. Grant applications are due for this round on June 26th. The changing federal policy and federal guidelines indicate that we're not sure there's going to be another round of this funding. The legislation shows that there's supposed to be one more round. This is the 4th year out of the 5-year program. But federal policies have been changing, as we all know, and it really is important for the city to put their hat in the ring this time around. One thing that's especially exciting is that there are already funding commitments in place for places like State Street, for example, that are not federal, and so they can be used as 20% match for this federal funding opportunity, meaning there would be no additional outlay on the part of the city, which is very exciting. In addition to that, the city, PennDOT, other parties are going to continue to look for other opportunities for implementation funding. There are a wide variety of safety programs that are available, administered through PennDOT and other agencies. And as I mentioned earlier, that safety working group that I described, or some subset of it, will continue to meet regularly to make sure that this plan does not simply sit on the shelf, but is actually implemented and benefits traffic safety in Erie. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Any questions from commissioners? No, thank you, Mr. Egner.
Thank you.
Jeff, there are no questions from the Planning Commission, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate the presentation, and the commissioners will now take a motion to vote to adopt the plan and recommend it to the City Council.
Anybody care to make a motion?
I'll move.
Second?
I'll second.
There being a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Motion
Jeff,
carries.
I'm sorry. Jeff, before you sign off, because the second item on our action list here is the 12th Street Reimagined Plan. Is there anything that you can speak to a little bit more about the 12th Street, incorporating the 12th Street plan into the Safety Action Plan? The planning commissioners had tabled taking action on the 12th Street plan for several reasons, and had asked to revisit that once the Safety Action Plan was complete. And just, I didn't know if you had any other comments around what types of things went into the Safety Action Plan from the 12th Street plan, and sort of the parallel between the two plans, if you could.
Sure. I'm generally familiar with the plan. I've reviewed it several times. It addresses issues beyond simply transportation safety. So I don't feel that I'm fully equipped to speak to any of those elements. But a number of the suggested changes that were made, including improved pedestrian crossings, improved intersection configurations, additional signal improvements beyond the ones that were recently installed by PennDOT, are entirely consistent with what we would recommend in terms of transportation safety improvements in the corridor. We also understand that there was some evaluation of potentially narrowing the street as part of the 12th Street Reimagined Plan in much more detail than we were able to do in terms of our overall safety plan. But based on our observations in the corridor, as much as I would like to see an opportunity to be able to further narrow the street to manage speeds and things like that, the level of traffic in the area and anticipated land use changes really seem to render that infeasible. So in general, I would say that the recommendations that I saw in the 12th Street Reimagined Plan are quite consistent with the Safety Action Plan.
So just a comment, it's not directed at you, Jeff, specifically, but I mean, one of the things I noticed in the Safety Action Plan was, 3 out of the 4 intersections on 12th Street that were, high-risk areas aren't in the 12th Street Reimagined Plan. Only a tiny section of that key strip. So it's, in my mind, as for the 12th Street Reimagined, I'm still, don't support adoption of it, but, it still only shifts the costs that, private businesses should be handling to maintain their properties, taxpayers. It doesn't, take a comprehensive view and completely ignores, the entire east side, let alone the fact that it doesn't even make it to State Street. I think what we saw with the Safe Streets Plan was a much more comprehensive and encompassing look at these areas throughout the city, not just one little stretch of, 2 miles, if that, for businesses that, they're related, but they're completely separate in my mind. So I mean, again, great starting point, 12th Street Reimagined. I think there's probably a lot more that should be considered, just looking at the Safe Streets plan as a guide to, how thorough and complete we would expect something to be.
And I have a comment kind of piggybacking off of what Colin said, as far as it not reaching the east side, but also, and forgive me if this was in the plan and I missed it, you were talking about like narrowing the streets and stuff to slow down traffic, but was there mention of any protective barriers or widening the sidewalks as well? I was recently walking on 12th Street by the Prep Event Center, and that sidewalk feels so small that I did not feel safe. And I know Prep has their own walkways and stuff, but I don't feel safe walking with my 6-year-old on 12th Street, whether it's to an event or not to an event, because, we just saw you have cars that lose control, cars that hit trees, things like that. What if something was to jump the curb? That curb is already narrow. And if you look at the sidewalks on this corridor in the 12th Street plan versus some of them on the east side, there does not seem to be a consistent size of sidewalk along 12th Street, whether it's on the north side, the south side, from block to block, anything like that.
Yeah, that's why I'd love to see the safety recommendations piece of that taken into account for things like that. I think that
agree.
was really great.
Yes, I agree.
I agree also with you, but because we had a scope and we had a project area that we had to abide by from what we inherited, the one thing I would like to just mention is that, in the safety action plan, the recommendations are for complete street policy. If we're looking into the future and we have a project that, it doesn't necessarily address narrowing the road, but we do have some complete street aspects within the 12th Street Reimagined plan that could be emulated along the 12th Street corridor. So some of the design and the design aspects that are currently in the 12th Street Reimagined are worthy of, I feel, adopting along with the safety action plan because it addresses all of the corridor. So that's my kind of argument just specifically around the complete streets policy. The hope is that we will be able to have those conversations and eventually adopt those policies, and we'll have more influence on the design of 12th Street, all of 12th Street, not just the west side of 12th Street. But the 12th Street, like I mentioned, the 12th Street Reimagined plan does show design and show more of the complete street nature design for West 12th Street.
So it's safe to say the hope is that these are going to somewhat work in conjunction with each other to kind of say, okay, this is safe, but this is what looks good, kind of.
Well, just in terms of sidewalks, I mean, the sidewalks absolutely in the 12th Street Reimagined plan were widened. There were tree plantings. The intersections were improved. There was signage that you were moving into certain neighborhoods. There was also an economic development component to the plan and land use component to the plan that is, outside of the transportation piece. But some of those sort of the study area, those types of things could be replicated along 12th Street. However, that being said, West 12th is quite different than East 12th. The land uses are different, zoning is different to some degree. I mean,
I wouldn't generalize it like that at all.
There's more manufacturing for sure on the west side of 12th than there is on the.
I like to chime in. I like to echo what Colin said, but just to add to it, I think it's insulting to us to call this the 12th Street Reimagined plan. I think it should be called the tiny portion of 12th Street Reimagined plan. I'm sick of talking about this plan. I think it's garbage, and it's half a big thought that our city deserves better. And until you come to us with a comprehensive plan for all of 12th Street, I'm not going to vote in favor of this.
Well, we've been asked to have action on it. So is there somebody who would like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
What was the motion?
To vote on approving.
Approving it for council, I believe. Is that what we're
Yeah.
motioning? I'll motion.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Nay. I think it needs just a little bit more work.
It's a great starting point, but to Jason's point, it's not 12th Street unless it includes all of 12th Street.
Excuse me.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Regner.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item F. Amendments to Article 6 and definitions on Article 7, historic resource protection of the zoning code.
We don't have to wait for those few grammatical, wording changes. We can, okay.
Yeah, and to make a amendment to your agenda, it should be only Article 7, as we discussed in the special meeting. We did, Article 6 is the definitions for the entire zoning ordinance.
Gotcha.
And we all of the definitions that pertain to historic resource protection were put into Article 7 as their own definition section. So you're only making a motion on Article 7, historic resource protection.
Okay. All right. Prior to this meeting, the Planning Commission held a special meeting to review the recommended changes to language in Article 7 for HRC protection. At that meeting, we noted numerous suggestions for alterations or modification of the language. So I think the question would be, I would make a motion to recommend approval, subject to incorporation of the comments made at the meeting.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
Motion and a second. Any other comments from commissioners? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you. Item 6, Department of Planning and Neighborhood Resources updates. Jackie?
Cooper and I will report on a few things. We have a lot going on in the planning department and neighborhood resources right now. I did want to mention about the City of Erie Comprehensive Recreation Parks and Open Space Plan. We meet bi-weekly with our consultant, and they are progressing really nicely with the analysis and research and background data of our park system. So far, they've determined that we do have 50 city-owned parks. That number varied depending on who you talk to in City Hall. But we do, what they're finding is we do have 50 city-owned parks. We are right now in the midst of embarking on the engagement piece of this plan through the summer months and into September. We're working not only with the planners and the neighborhood resource and neighborhood team leader of the department, but we're also working with the community liaison, and we're working with the New American liaison to help us reach everyone in the city of Erie. We have a full schedule of events that we'll be at with pop-ups, going to different neighborhood groups, going to different events. We're actually at the moment, our community liaison, Daryl Craig, is working with the consultant to develop some flyers and materials to send home to the students of the city of Erie before school lets out and try to engage the youth a little bit. And we have other points in the summer that will be definitely engaging the youth because it's important that we receive their feedback as well. So that's where we're at. We have a schedule that we can share with you if you'd like to see where we're at, but yeah, we're moving very, very quickly ahead with that project and seeing some really good development so far. There is a landing page now on the City of Erie's website. It's just text at the moment, but we will embed different maps on there. There'll be a pretty good presence of this project. And so please, if people have questions, drive them to that page and certainly send them our way if they have other questions and comments. Eventually, once the consultants are finished with the youth focus, they'll be moving on to a community type survey that will be up on the website. But we really think that the pop-ups throughout the summer are going to help us, and we'll get most of our feedback that way instead of kind of the traditional way of having meetings. So that's my update for that project. Cooper?
For the tree inventory?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So the ongoing DCNR grant that we have throughout the rest of this year, we published an RFP for a tree inventory and sustainable urban forest management plan. We've gotten a number of proposals back for that, and we'll be interviewing some of those firms this week, and hope to make a decision soon so that they can get out in the community and take a look at all of our trees while the weather is still nice. It's only for trees along streets, in parks, and in boulevards, in the public right-of-way. But they'll be going through the entire city and looking at all the trees so that we can make more informed decisions in the future about planting and species management, and all of that. And that work should be wrapped up by the end of this year.
Is Penelec involved with any of those discussions? I know they can be a little heavy-handed when they're doing their vegetation management to trim back from the lines. Have they been part of that conversation, or I guess will they, in terms of the ongoing management, just so that we can make sure that they're following kind of our plan and rules?
Yeah, they will be when we get to the sustainable urban forest management plan.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And the city has not they've never had an inventory of the trees. I mean, our arborist has a running list of trees that have been removed or trees that have been planted, but it's never been mapped. We don't know really where all of our locations are. So this would be a first time that we'd have something like this. We're also working pretty closely with the Urban Forest Committee as well. So.
Yeah. The estimate is about 25,000 trees in the city, so it'll be a big inventory.
We can bump that up. We can get those numbers higher.
Yeah.
Rookie
That's part of
numbers.
it. Yeah.
So will the goal be to establish a total population that we want, like 50,000 or something like that?
Yeah, I'm sure that would be
some
part
sort
of
of
the
density to
Yeah, setting.
Tree canopies and green the city.
protecting historic trees.
All of that would be inventoried in this project.
So then this project will drive other things like setting goals for canopy coverage or protect, okay.
Right.
So this is just kind of our baseline.
Yes.
And then C, Historic Preservation Month. May is National Historic Preservation Month. The notable event at the end of the month, you all should have just received an invitation to an event next Thursday at the Art Museum from 5 to 7 p.m. to celebrate Erie's Historic Preservation Program, the one-year anniversary of our Historic Preservation Plan, and we also will be honoring the 5 locally designated historic landmarks that have gone through our application process through our local designation program as well. So next Thursday, we have about 60 attendees and are finalizing the details for that event at the Art Museum.
I hope you can come.
Yes.
Jackie, question related to the park survey. Does that include all the little parks? I'm thinking in Cockle Park, there's Yale Triangle and Harvard Triangle, you know.
Does it, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Does it include all of the, what was the?
The little parks, the little,
Yes, any city-owned property,
okay.
not including boulevards, of
Right.
course, but anything that's considered, open space, green space, would be part of this process, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And just real fast to clarify, just so everybody's, because I was confused, you said next Thursday?
Yes.
The
yeah,
29th,
29th.
correct? Perfect, okay.
Yes. Did you receive an invitation
I did.
for
That's
that?
what I was just looking
Okay,
up,
I was
'cause I
just
was
making
like-
sure. You should have received an invitation from Kyle Hannon, who's the Director of Communications.
It
So-
was a completely separate email, that's why I wanted to
Yeah,
double check.
it was, and it's from 5 to 7 at the Art Museum.
Okay. Any other
Yeah.
questions or comments from commissioners?
I was going to ask Liz Reyes to just come up quickly and just give a little bit of an update on the Love Your Block program, since we're going to be starting that program up. Sorry to put you on the spot, Liz, but just a few of the events that are going to be going on through the summer.
Hi everyone, my name is Liz Reyes. Just a little background, I did start as an AmeriCorps Vista about 3 years ago, and I was hired on officially to the city last year as a neighborhood resource coordinator, and I am now the neighborhood resource team leader. So just some background on that. Currently we are doing Love Your Block projects. We're going into our 4th year. Traditionally these projects have served traditionally the east side neighborhoods, mostly those neighborhoods that don't have any representation from neighborhood organizations or neighborhood groups. We've worked in the East Avenue, Pulaski neighborhood, Lakeside, which is Fairmount McClelland area, Academy neighborhood, Marvintown, and East Bayfront. This year we will be providing $2,000 mini grants for small home repair projects. We will be working with contractors for some of these projects. In the past, these projects have been landscaping, installing new house numbers, mailboxes, power washing, new handrails as well, and all of that work has been volunteer-led. So we've worked with volunteers to come out and work with residents to do the projects, and it's been a great community project out in the neighborhoods. This year we will be doing small home repair projects in 3 areas of the city. Those are Central City, Snoop's neighborhood, Buffalo Road, and Central City, Snoop's, and Buffalo Road. And we will also be doing dumpster cleanups with several other neighborhoods across the city. And those projects will be also paired with the 814 concerts. So we are working with the mayor's team currently to finalize that schedule and working with them, the other neighborhood groups, to see what other ways we could collaborate with them with their schedules and events that they have going on this summer as well. So we will be doing those projects. All of that information will be, once it's finalized, will be available on our webpage, our neighborhood resource webpage as well. So just a brief update on that. Do you all have any questions about that?
No, thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks, Liz. That's all today.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, item 7, adjournment.
Motion.
Make a motion? Second.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned.